Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I'm Agi Keramidas and my mission is to inspire you to rise up, grow, stand out and take action towards the next level of your life. I interview leaders, influencers, entrepreneurs, authors, exceptional people who can and will inspire you to improve your life. Tune in for 2 episodes each week and make sure you subscribe to the podcast to get the episodes as soon as they are released. This is the second half of the conversation with Chess Edwards. If you haven't listened to the first part, tune in to the previous episode, number 81, where Chess discussed his journey, the practice of meditation, and the intersection between personal and spiritual development. Can I also ask you a couple of more, if I can use the word practical in this, in terms of...
Good. It's important.
Of course, because I'm going to explain two of maybe my own personal questions or challenges with meditation practice. Mm-hmm. And I would love your thoughts and your wisdom on that. So the first one is many times, or sometimes anyway, I sit down to meditate and it feels like my mind has a mind of its own completely, and which is a funny way to describe it. But what I'm trying to say is that it really won't comply with my intention of calming down and so it goes twice as loud or fast. Is that a matter of just accepting that this is how it is today, or is there something that needs to be done?
Yes to both. So there's a wonderful teaching in meditation that says the idea is not to empty the mind of thoughts, but to recognize that all thoughts are empty. Mm-hmm. You try to empty your mind of all thoughts, they will say, no, we're here for a reason. And they'll fight back. Yeah. So if we start to recognize what is really going on, it's just a habit. Our personal self, the egoic self that is primary for most, it believes that nothing's happening outside of its thoughts. What is happening is what the mind is thinking about what is happening. So it's saying, why would you want me to stop thinking? Because then nothing will be happening. It doesn't have faith. It doesn't trust that, no, life is happening beyond our thoughts about it. Our thoughts about life doesn't tell us what's happening. It tells us our thoughts about what's happening. So if we start to feel into watching our thoughts, not trying to push them away, we can feel like we are the sky allowing clouds to come and go. The sky isn't battling clouds. The sky isn't perturbed by clouds. The sky goes, clouds, they form. They just, they form like a thought forms. And then they fall apart, just like a thought falls apart. I am the sky witnessing the thoughts. So the practicality is a couple of things. When I sat in my early meditations, I always had a journal next to me. It's not cheating. It's not wrong. I never got beat up by God for stopping my meditation and taking a note. Because sometimes the mind is just saying, it's rehearsing a conversation that it needs to have with somebody. And so I'll open my eyes and I'll take a note. And the mind goes, okay, we got that. We won't forget it. Like, yeah, I got it. And it says, okay, I can let it go now. So that's a nice practical matter of how to deal with it. Mm-hmm. The other is to recognize, wow, there's my mind. And so to sit with curiosity and humor rather than a sternness and a judgment of self. To sit and watch and go, wow, look at my mind today. That's fascinating. And finally, I would say just that the more we know what we are, the self beyond mind, the more we rest in that witness perspective. and we can watch the mind. And the question that arises down the line of this work, of these meditative practices, ultimately what you learn to do is to inquire, to ask, within what is my mind coming and going? I am the pure awareness within which my mind and my thoughts arise and pass, come and go, are born and die. So it's a pulling out. It's a learning to pull out and hold a more vast, peaceful perspective, knowing that every thought is going to come and go, but it's coming and going within what? And in this work, it's awareness. It's happening within awareness. And I am the awareness that is eternal, within which the thoughts of a temporary mind are happening. So I am the sky witnessing passing weather patterns.
Thank you. I have one more question about the practice, and it is how breathing relates to the meditation practice, or whether we can use. I find personally that breathing allows me as a vehicle to, let's say, go deeper.
Yeah.
However, I always have the sensation when I focus on my breathing that I'm controlling it. So rather than observing it or following it, I have often the sensation that I'm leading the breath rather than following it. So can you expand on the breathing while meditating?
So there's going to be all manner of different teachings around, various breathing techniques. The breath that I teach is a breath that is in and out through the nose, and that there's no efforting. There's no efforting on the front end on the inhale. There's no efforting on the exhale. Step back for a moment. It's really beautiful to start a meditation by just simply saying, be aware of the presence of your breath. Because what's beautiful is we recognize there need not be any efforting. It's the one thing we can actually bring our awareness to that requires no thought, requires no story, because it's going to keep happening. It's this beautiful thing. The breath just happens. And what we're looking for in this meditation is the self that just is. So it can be valuable to bring our awareness into the breath. Notice that it's just happening. And feel the difference between that and the mind that is saying, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? And to feel the difference between the stillness within which a breath just arises and passes and comes and goes. It's just happening. Feel the presence of that stillness. And then notice the difference between that feeling and the mind that is going, am I doing this right? What's happening? What's going on? Is this good? And we get to fluctuate. We get to kind of like pointing awareness to the left foot. We point the awareness to the mind and go, wow, that's a crazy show. And then we point the awareness back down into the heart, into the breath, and go, oh, that feels like there's already peace there. Beautiful. So that's part of the value of the breathing, is because just allow it to happen. Just allow it to happen. You don't have to effort it. The breathing in and out through the nose is that's something that can be taught how to let that happen. The main thing to recognize is we're not sniffing in the breath. We're not initiating the breath from the nostrils. That would be like breathing through the mouth, sipping in the breath, going, and that's not how we breathe. We just open the mouth, I just open the mouth and breathe, the mouth isn't doing anything. It's just opening. The lungs are doing the work. So then we can learn to breathe like that, but then close the mouth and keep breathing like that through the nose, and see if we switch to a sniffing breath or whether we stay with that open, hollow breath and just allow the lungs to naturally do what they do. So yeah, the value of bringing awareness to the breath is because it is probably the most physical sensation that approximates beingness. It's just happening.
Thank you. This was such a beautiful answer. Yeah. Let's talk about something a little bit different. Actually, you mentioned earlier about the emotional vocabulary, and you say that we lack the emotional awareness because we lack the emotional fluency, so we don't have a good comprehension of our emotional state, or we can't translate it or explain it. So yeah. I would love you to expand on this topic for me.
Beautiful. Yeah, this is a really fun tool and powerful. I use it in my retreats a lot when we go around in the morning and check in with everybody. How are you today? Where are you right now? So, day 3 of a retreat. Where are you right now? And we start to recognize, I think everyone will relate to this, the answer to how are you? Hey, buddy, good to see you. How are you? Mm-hmm. I'm good. Or, I'm not so good. What a beautiful thing it is to take a moment to be more contemplative. I find that the becoming more emotionally fluent, is very much supported by having a good journaling practice. When somebody says to me, how are you? I'm often answering based on what I was journaling that morning. Like, yeah, I've done my self-reflective work in the morning. I actually pondered and looked into and felt into how am I doing, became more aware of that. And then later on in the day, someone says, how are you? And I'm able to say, oh, that's funny. I was journaling about that this morning. I am feeling this. So the emotional vocabulary builder has 2 sides of the sheet, as you're aware. On one side, it's the quote positive words that we might describe. At the top of, I think it's 4 columns, might be 5 columns. And the top is the common word. I'm doing good, right? But then underneath that, there's all these nuances. Mm-hmm. Like, how are you? I'm happy. I'm joyful. I'm excited. I feel alive. I'm mischievous. I am feeling very childlike. What a beautiful thing to bring in that more depth. And then we notice that with others, it builds intimacy. Because if I ask you, Augie, how are you doing today? And you say, hold on, let me be with that. How am I feeling? I'm feeling kind of devilish these days, or mischievous, right? I can guarantee I'm going to lean into that conversation. Yeah. Oh, wow. Really? Tell me more. And now you're telling me about you, about what's going on within you. Mm-hmm. On the other side of the sheet, it's got the words that might describe a sense of self that is more challenging. Mm-hmm. So I'm feeling fearful. Fun words. I'm feeling befuddled. I'm feeling absolutely lost. I am feeling like a victim these days. That's getting honest. It's really getting into how we are feeling. So we start to learn about ourselves by exploring in the morning, doing some journaling, pulling out the emotional vocabulary builder and saying, how am I feeling? Let me find a word on here that actually gets close to describing what I'm actually feeling. And then journal about that and explore that a little bit. And now later on, I'm having conversations with people, and my conversations are deeper. They're more honest. They're more intimate. They're more vulnerable. And we also notice, Augie, that if I'm not doing that type of work and you ask me how I'm doing, I say, I'm doing good. And then you might say, oh, good, what's happening? And instead of telling you what's happening within me, most people immediately go to, well, why am I feeling good? My relationship is going well. I just got a couple of new clients. I bought a house, or I'm not doing good. Why aren't you doing good? Well, I lost the house and the relationship just broke up and I just got fired. We immediately talk about what's happening out there. What if one were to say, how are you? I'm doing really good. Yeah, what's happening? I just got fired. My relationship just ended, right? And this other thing's going on. And people are like, well, and you're saying you're doing good? Yeah, and I'm all right. I'm doing good. This is the freedom to recognize that our inner state of being doesn't necessarily have to be so dependent on what's happening in our lives. Or I can say, how are you feeling? I'm feeling really sad these days. I feel a melancholy. Oh, there's just this melancholy these days. Wow, that sounds like really bad. No, it's not bad. It's just melancholy. And that is there. Yeah.
That is fantastic. And I will actually implement it myself, and I will advise to anyone that resonated with it as a practice every morning, because I think that it's going to give me some insights to pick up your emotional vocabulary list, which is free on your website. I was checking it out, and pick the word, like the word of the day, what resonates with the state I'm in this morning, because it varies. For example, this morning I woke up in really not the same mood like I was yesterday, and I couldn't explain it why, but I needed to accept it, because there was not much point in fighting it. So using that vocabulary, or this collection of words to identify the one, and then utilizing through the day in conversations with others or with ourselves, I think that's invaluable practice. So thank you for that. It's
well, I notice all the books on the shelf behind you, right? what makes a book beautiful? It's the author's ability to use a breadth of language to say it's a novel, and they're just describing the feeling of a morning. What did the morning feel like this morning? It was a melancholy morning. Like that. Now you're into the book. Now you're interested. Now it's making the book valuable. If you picked up a book and it said it was a good morning and he had a nice day, you'd put the book down immediately. So let's make our own lives that much more exciting and rich and dynamic by playing with the full dimensionality of what it is to be in this life. And I got to say, Augie, that where this lands with the spiritual development is when we are fully rested in our absolute love, that loving parent that'll hold their arms open for any, childhood wounding, any feeling, we then get to feel the full dimensionality of life. I get to feel grief and sadness and loss and joy and bliss and success and failure and uncertainty and knowing and courage. And like, we get to feel it all because it's all coming and going within the unwavering grace of pure love. That's our freedom.
Beautiful. There is another thing, it's just that I wanted to also discuss with you. I found it's a word that I saw on your website, and it's a word that appears quite often. And I think it's very important to understand its true meaning and what it means. And the word is trust. And trust, I would take it in a spiritual sense. I mean, trusting that there is guidance, or trusting. I want your thoughts on trust, what it is, and how we can have more of it and allow ourselves to trust.
Yeah. So when we're working with learning to trust, we are often using mental concepts, which are, again, are valuable, better than not trusting, but usually working with the mind. Something happened in life, and initially it feels like it's a disaster. And I don't like that, and I'm struggling with it, and it's a big challenge. And then I've got to go through a couple of mental steps to go, oh, wait a minute. No, I need to trust that everything will work out all right. I've got to, something's about to happen in life, and I'm uncertain of it. And I'm uneasy with that. Oh, no, I got to go to a mental idea that goes, oh, no, I've learned that I need to trust that everything works out for the best. I need to trust people. I can't trust people all the time. There's no, like, I'm going to get betrayed. People are going to do all sorts of things. Life's going to do what it does. My house is going to burn down. There's going to be things that happen in life. So the beautiful thing is when we come into a trust, we say, what am I really learning to trust? Me. I'm trusting that I, the true I, the pure I am, the unwavering grace of being, is going to be awakened and present to meet whatever shows up. I don't know that it's all going to work out all right. My loved one is in the hospital, and I trust that they're going to pull through. I don't know that, and maybe they don't. But can I trust that I'm resting in love, and I'm going to be able to meet my grief and meet my sadness and meet my pain and allow it, rested in love? There's a wonderful teaching that says allowing is not an activity of the mind. Allowing is the very nature of our being. So we don't have to go through these mental constructs or affirmations to get back to a sense of trust. It is simply the awakening of the unwavering grace of peace that we are. And I trust that that is going to be present no matter what happens, whether that loved one passes, or whether my house burns down, or whether I lose the job. Yeah. So we trust our truth. That's what we're really trusting, is we're trusting our truth.
Thank you. I will repeat. I took a note of that because it made a big impression. Allowing is the very nature of our being. So profound. Yeah. Just there's also one other thing. Now I'm kind of jumping around from topic to topic.
So I'm so enjoying this conversation. Thank you very much.
So am I. No, it's my real pleasure, Jess. So there is one other thing that I wanted your thoughts about, and it is self-doubt. And I was reading something that you wrote that that self-doubt is natural and healthy because we are doubting the self, which is a construct. It's not so. I found that fascinating. So, and a bit of a pun as well, because. Yeah. So, I would like your thoughts on self-doubt and whether it is natural and why people don't see it as a good thing.
Absolutely. So, I lived the majority of my life with self-doubt. And as a purity of being is awakened and present and prevalent, there's far less doubt. And so what I started to recognize was, oh, my self-doubt was actually absolutely understandable, because the only self I knew, the only self I was working with, was the self that I had constructed, was myself of the egoic identity that didn't feel worthy and didn't feel capable and was afraid of being judged. And it brought up a sense of self-doubt. And I realized, well, what self is being doubted? Well, it's the false self. So I've come to recognize that whenever I'm feeling self-doubt, it's a wonderful moment of pointing. I get to recognize in that moment, oh, I'm identified with the illusion of a separate self. I have forgotten my divinity. I've forgotten my wholeness. I am identified with a story of me. So if I feel self-doubt, yay, that's an indicator. It's like higher consciousness is saying, look, I can't get your attention through consciousness because you're not very conscious right now. You're asleep in the dream of self. So the only way I can get your attention is to make whatever you're thinking feel bad, to feel scary, to feel small, to feel petty. And if I learn that when those feelings arise, it's like, oh, I must be believing something that isn't true. I must be identified with the small illusion of a separate self, or the illusion of a small self. That's where my identity is right now. I've forgotten my wholeness. And so it feels bad. And then in that moment, when I take a few breaths, or when any of us take a few breaths, point the awareness to the feeling of wholeness, truth, beauty that has been awakening in our meditations. I go, oh, there I am. And the doubt fades, and the feeling, constricted feeling, loosens. So self-doubt, if we're doubting the self, it means we're identified with a self that very well should be doubted.
That's a big food for thought here with this, Jess.
Yeah, one could sit with that meditative inquiry for a while and just kind of sit with that feeling. And that just brought something else up real quick.
Yeah.
You're in the meditation. One of the most valuable tools I have found in meditation is find a teacher that you feel good with. YouTube, I've got my videos on YouTube, Rupert Spira, Mooji, Gangaji, Adyashanti, all these different wonderful teachers. Listen, find some part of the conversation that they're having with their students that feels good, that feels like, oh, that's food for thought. That's good. And then go sit and marinate in that. That's one of the most valuable things in meditation for years, and I still do it. In the evening, I will often listen to one of my teachers, find some part of the conversation that feels really relevant and alive for where I am right now, and then I'll stop the recording and I'll go sit and marinate in whatever that truth was that is aligning with wherever I am on my journey.
I love it, and this is actually, I always endeavor in my podcast to give to the listener some actionable items as a result of the conversation, because the conversation is great, but unless someone actually does something with it, I think that's when really the whole purpose of what we're doing is for someone to take an action. So this is, I think, a great actionable item to stop the video at that point that you resonate with, and then The word marinate is a very interesting choice of word that you used. So I get it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Apart with, and we also said another actionable item was about the word that we pick in the morning. I think I certainly am going to do those things myself. So thank you for the ideas to take action on.
And have a journal next to you, when you're meditating, and feel free to unload something that the mind won't let go of until you write it down, and then go back into the meditation.
Fantastic. Just, I'm going to ask you a question which I'm sure that you have been asked many times, but I'm very curious to find out your answer to this. If you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self, what's the one piece of advice you would give him?
Okay. So, first of all, that's part of the work. I go back and talk to my 18-year-old self and my 10-year-old self, and my 7-year-old self constantly. And all I'm doing in every encounter is I'm delivering to them the truth. You are love. You are not your story. You are not your mind-constructed fears. You are, I am, everyone is love. And for that young self, in that moment that I do that, I feel that 18-year-old who's present now. He's not in the past. I can't go back to the past. Nobody can. All you can do is conjure the young you into the moment. It's present. Conjure the young you into the moment, and whatever truth I know in the moment, I give it to that young self. And I watch that young self and feel that young self, that my shoulders straighten up. I stand up straighter. I feel good about myself as the 18-year-old. And I realize, I am love. I always have been love. That's the only absolute truth of being, is that I am pure loving awareness. And I give that truth to that 18-year-old who exists within me. So now it's a healed 18-year-old that exists within me. That's the crux of this work, is to awaken into the truth and then to give it to every iteration of yourself throughout, quote, time. Because they're all present now. My 5-year-old's present now, 3-year-old's present now, my 7-year-old's present now. So I can invite that young self forward into the moment. And if I'm sitting in the moment in my absolute truth, then there's no reason that 5-year-old can't have access to that absolute truth.
I understand it. I mean, I realized it in a very different way that I have ever had. So I understand it. Thank you for this. Just, would you like to share with us about the work that you do and how you help people personally with your teachings, with your retreats, and share all these things with us, please. It's intriguing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a blessing. It's a beautiful thing to be able to be in service to any consciousness that is awakening. And so the work I do is I'm here in Sedona, Arizona. I was showing you earlier, Augie, the backyard. I mean, I'm just right on the edge of the wilderness, and this is where I hold my retreats. And probably the most powerful work are the private retreats. So people come and they stay. I've got a 2-bedroom separate suite that's attached to the sanctuary, and people come and they spend 3 nights, and we just spend 3 days together, teaching meditations, looking at the truth of their history, their story, their wounding, awakening the essence of being, going for walks out on the land, deepening our meditative practice. So my real favorite work is those 3 days of concentrated, uninterrupted time, so that I'm not sending somebody out the door after a 2-hour session back into the world of dream and illusion, but we actually get to hold that space and ripen and marinate for a couple of days. So that's my favorite work. I also have retreats. I've got one coming up in March of 2021. And it's called a Return to Wholeness. It's a 4-day retreat here. So small group, about 8 to 10 people. Those are remarkably powerful. And then also I have the opportunity just to do one-on-one sessions. Somebody can purchase a package of, 12 hours and meet with me. We meet for a half hour, and the next time we meet for 45 minutes, and the next time maybe we meet for an hour. So we just keep meeting on a regular basis to deepen one's understanding of themselves and in their personal nature and their spiritual nature. And the main thing is for people to start a conversation with me. So on my site, I've got all manner of buttons that say, click here and schedule a free 30-minute call to freedom. And I will have a 30-minute conversation with anybody to help them get real clear about why they feel the way they do and what are their possibilities for true freedom.
I will put the website in the show notes, but do you want to share it as well for the listener to just listen?
So it's chessedwards.com, and chess is just like the game, CHESS Edwards.com.
That's a very unusual name. We were talking about that earlier.
I have very unusual parents.
Are you a good chess player then?
No, I figure with a name like mine, I don't have to be. Anyone challenges me to a game of chess, I just look at them and go, really? Really? Do you really want to go there?
Chess, I know that, of course, we had a limited amount of time, and it's such a diverse topic, and I try to cover things that I think they are very important and relevant also. But is there anything that you were really hoping to discuss about today and we completely skipped it?
No, I think this is beautiful. You've done a beautiful job of guiding this conversation. I think it would just be the main recognition is kind of for me, the key, the missing ingredient is to recognize that the self that we believe ourselves to be is a construct. It is a self we have made up in our own mind. And that will remain intact and present unless we start to awaken a true self, because the mind needs an identity. And you and I and anybody all day long could talk about how, this thing you call you, it's made up and it's not true. And your beliefs of unworthiness, those aren't really real. You just made those up and blah, blah, blah. So let it go. So stop it. You can't, because you need an identity. And if that's the only identity that's predominant, that is the strongest because it's been in place for a lifetime or lifetimes, it won't let go unless we start to awaken a true essence of being. Then it can start to go, I've been a placeholder. I can start to let go because now the more eternal, authentic self is coming online, is awakening, is becoming real. So I would just say that from my experience, one cannot be free of the egoic identity that is quite troublesome without awakening the truth of who you are. You can work with that troublesome egoic identity and reshape it, reform it, and try to get it to behave, and it will not stabilize. So I think that's the main thing, is that fundamental recognition, that little aha that says there's not just one you. There's another you that is veiled, that is typically unknown. And it's your eternal, divine, whole nature that's already at peace and already loving and already in a state that is pure allowing. Yeah.
I want to thank you so much, Jess, for this conversation. It's I to say the word enjoy, it's really don't even start to describe how I felt. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I want to wish you all the best with your work and your mission to help others, and it is such an important thing. It always has been, but I think especially in these times in history. Any parting words from you?
Thank you. Thank you for your open heart and your beautiful courage to explore yourself and to explore life. And that word courage, the Latin for courage is cor, which means heart. Mm-hmm. So to live with heart. And I just so loved, Augie, the moment that you and I connected in the very first Zoom chat, was I just saw just this huge, beautiful heart, that's doing everything it can to live fully. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and rate Personal Development Mastery on Apple Podcasts, and also share this episode with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to become part of an exclusive community, gain access to unique content, and at the same time support this podcast, then become my patron. The link is in the show notes, or you can type bit.ly/pdmpat. If you want to know more about what I do and how I can help you, join my Facebook group Personal Development Mastery. Again, the link is in the show notes, or you can simply type bit.ly/pdmgroup. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in.